So the Nintendo Switch 2 was rumored to be announced tomorrow, Thursday, January 16th. Now, it was also rumored that Nintendo was going to pre-announce this announcement today, Wednesday, and it doesn't look like they have done that. So I guess I don't know for sure if it is going to get revealed tomorrow, but you know, with the reveal very likely coming up, now is probably as good of time as any to remind everybody that Nintendo does not like emulators. Yeah, they have made it very clear that they are not afraid to take legal action, to issue cease and desists, to make them go away if they feel that they are in any way breaking the law and just doing things that are going to not be in their favor. I think we all remember Yuzu, rest in peace. Believe it or not, it's been about a year now since it was taken down by Nintendo. So point being, you know, whenever they release this Nintendo Switch 2, they're not going to stop taking down these emulators. They're not going to stop with their overall war against these unofficial emulators of their consoles, especially for their most current console. But the legality of these emulators is something that definitely comes into question. You know, a lot of people were very frustrated with the whole Yuzu situation because people said that, you know, the emulator itself shouldn't really be breaking any sort of law just by existing. It is the illegal pirated ROMs and the existence of them just on the internet just to be freely downloaded. That is kind of where it is illegal. Or at least that is according to most people who are frustrated about that whole thing. But we actually did get a bit of clarification now on how Nintendo's lawyers view the legality of these emulators. Yeah, so just earlier this week there was an event called the Tokyo Esports Festa 2025, and as part of it there was a lecture that was hosted by the Association of Copyright for Computer Software in Japan. So obviously, naturally, there were discussions on the legality of certain software, such as emulators. Now, there were actually a lot of very interesting people who were in attendance, people who came from different Japanese companies, such as Konami, Sega, and Capcom, but also Nintendo. So, Koji Nishiura is a patent attorney of Nintendo. Basically, he is a lawyer, and he deals with a lot of these sorts of things, you know, maybe taking down emulators that Nintendo does not agree with. And he was asked the question, you know, when are emulators legal and when are they not legal? And he gave some interesting insight on this. So just for starters, he says that just by itself an emulator is not illegal. Yeah, emulators have the right to exist by itself. You know, an emulation of the software of a console is not by itself illegal, but what does make it illegal, that according to him is basically based on two things. So there are two main things that can make an emulator illegal according to Nintendo. So one of these is when emulators provide links to various websites or platforms that host ROMs or pirated games for free and unlicensed by Nintendo to be played on that emulator. Essentially, this is what he is referring to as a reach app. Yeah, so if you are an emulator and you provide these links, you are, according to certain Japanese law, at that point considered no longer just an emulator, but you are a reach app, and apparently this is illegal in Japan. Now, the other main thing is when your emulator purposely disables these sort of security measures, encryptions, and security mechanisms that would prevent the console or the emulator from running pirated copies or illegally obtained copies of Nintendo games. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people have made the argument that people legitimately do use these emulators for fully legal practices. You know, they'll only use the emulator to play games that they legitimately have their own copy of. Well, yeah, essentially, according to this Nintendo lawyer, this is really the only way in which you can use an emulator for it to be considered legal. So when the creators of the emulator themselves are basically encouraging people to not use it for these reasons, but to use it for other sort of nefarious purposes, either by providing links to a ROM list or by actually disabling these security measures, that is when it is considered illegal. And, you know, going back to the example of Yuzu, and then also the 3DS emulator Citra that was taken down about a month after Yuzu was taken down, I believe between those two emulators, both of them, I think, checked both of these boxes, or at least one of them did. I'm trying to find it right now. I can't find any articles on it, but I do remember one of them had like a link list to ROMs. It's very possible that was possibly a different emulator, but I believe it was one of them, if not both. So yeah, it's obviously no surprise that Nintendo does not like emulators. They have made that very clear, especially in 2024. But now as we go into 2025 and we possibly are going to get a reveal for the next Nintendo console tomorrow, it is good to at least get some sort of insight on why Nintendo maybe picks certain emulators to take down. Essentially, if you have any sort of nefarious purposes with your emulator, or at least according to Nintendo, they will shut it down. You know, hopefully for the next console, there can be an emulator as good as Yuzu that does come out. Hopefully, if that does happen, they do take this into consideration so that hopefully it does not get taken down.